Hello, wonderful beings of Beam Tribe and anyone else who's listening to this. Nick here from Ottawa, and today I'd like to share some thoughts on doing your own barefoot experiment. So we've done videos for Beam Tribe already that explain what is an experiment, about experiment design, of how to go about creating your own experiment and why there's value to that. But today we want to talk about the value of doing a barefoot experiment, and maybe a good place to start. We'll be talking about why should you care about doing a barefoot experiment. And one thing I'll say at the start here is whenever I say barefoot, I'm also talking about wearing natural footwear, right? Going barefoot with nothing on your feet is the gold standard, and I think it's really important to spend some time barefoot every day. But if you wear natural footwear that's wide, thin, flat, flexible, you're basically allowing your foot to function as if it was barefoot and yet still protect your foot from damage. Okay, so whenever I say barefoot, I'm also talking about wearing natural footwear. Why should you care about doing a barefoot experiment? Well, I think the easy way to answer that is that it's the simplest and most powerful way to restore naturally functioning, strong, resilient feet. Okay, and resilient really means able to recovery from injury quickly or avoiding getting injured in the first place. So I think we all would like to have feet that don't hurt. We all would like to have feet that create a strong foundation for our body, for movement, for a lifetime of movement. And so restoring function, if you have foot pain or if you want to avoid foot pain, doing your own barefoot experiment and playing with variables to see what your tolerance is and how much you can strengthen and condition your feet to be really resilient is a really powerful tool. Okay, so when it comes to doing your barefoot experiment, understanding how to kind of go about it is really the goal. Right? People who say that going barefoot or wearing natural footwear is bad for you are either misinformed or trying to sell you something. Saying that going barefoot is bad for you is like saying vegetables are bad for you. It's just not true. Now, with that said, if you eat 20 pounds of vegetables, you're gonna feel really sick. If you go full force and come out of the gate way too hard and spend like 5 hours barefoot after having never spent time barefoot, it's probably going to give you problems, okay? So how do you go about starting your experiment? A really good way to start this is spending time barefoot in your home. The amount of people that wear footwear inside the house is kind of astonishing. So start by going barefoot inside your home. And you have to understand that when it comes to doing an experiment, you need to record data. You need to be mindful of how things feel, right? How do your feet feel during or after or the next day? And whether you record that mentally or whether you actually record that on paper, like just one little note after every time you spend time barefoot. How do my feet feel? How do they feel the next day? How do they feel compared to when I wear shoes, right? So recording data is important. Starting slow is important, right? You're starting with 10 minutes barefoot at home is a good starting point. That might be a really small amount for a lot of people. You could probably do way more, but it's better to go slowly and see how things feel than to overshoot. Okay, so start small, start on forgiving textures. So inside the house, usually it's going to be hard, flat textures, which don't give the foot a whole lot of nutrition in terms of movement, but it's a good starting point. Once you start to build confidence and once things feel good, then you can sort of venture out on different textures. So grass, pebbles, concrete, all this kind of stuff, okay? When you're spending time walking around completely barefoot, you have to be a lot more mindful of how you're stepping and where you're stepping. And this is all part of the experiment, right? This is part of the experiment of reconnecting with your body, of reconnecting with your feet as very powerful sensors. And so that's all part of the experiment, right? So record results, progress slowly as tolerated. If your feet are sore when you're spending time barefoot, maybe they need a little bit of help in the form of taking a lacrosse ball and loosening up the tissues and the joints of your foot. Right? If you spent a lot of time in footwear, and especially conventional built-up footwear that's very stiff and very supportive, your feet are going to have this little adaptation period where they're going to need to get a bit stronger. They're going to need to get more mobile. And the beauty is that walking barefoot or walking in natural footwear actually is the most potent way to restore mobility and strength in your feet. Right? It's not doing foot exercises. It's actually just using your feet as nature intended, right? As your body is designed to use your feet. So doing your barefoot experiment, everyone starts at a different place. I think the level of challenge and how much you want to push yourself is going to vary, right? You have some people that want to go on a barefoot 5-kilometer walk, and you have some people that just want to walk around in the backyard barefoot to see how it feels. And both of those are fine. And the amount of the speed at which you start to progress or challenge yourself is also totally up to you, right? You have to be comfortable with it. But I think one of the biggest things is reconnecting with how it feels, right? We all remember how good it felt to be a kid and run around a grass field barefoot, but we've gotten really disconnected from that. And when you're first starting out, you need to do some basic reconditioning, so you have to start slow. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of how you can do your own barefoot experiment, starting with spending a little bit of time with nothing on your feet, and maybe spending more time, progressively more time in natural footwear. We offer a ton of different suggestions for styles of natural footwear at the tfc-shop.com. And just experiment, get other people in on your experiment, do it as a group. Hopefully that gives you some good ideas. Be well, we'll see you in the next video.